Warble flies are common in a lot of other ungulates and a lot of other kind of large herbivores like that. And they're quite common in cattle as well, but with domestic cattle, we can treat them with a pesticide, and unfortunately with caribou, it's all a natural process. So with the longer summer months and the warmer climate, they think that those fly population numbers are really going up, and it's affecting the caribou. The other fly that's really a big nuisance to them is called the nose bot fly. And what that one does is it basically buries into the nostrils of the caribou, and it'll sit inside basically the vascular kind of matrix that the caribou have there, because they have a very, very complex sort of breathing system in their nose to warm the air before it heads into their body and helps them keep themselves warm in the winter. Very important. But what the nose botfly does is it takes advantage of those nice warm passageways that have lots of blood flow, and it basically sticks in there, and they can have up to 150 flies stuck in their noses.
How do they even breathe?
Yeah, that's the big problem, is it's really hard on their breathing, and basically what happens is the flies will live in there all winter, and then in the summertime the caribou will basically sneeze out the ready larva, and the larva will then finish growing on the tundra.
Man, rough life for
caribou. Caribou have it a little rough with the parasites.
I was told too, because I think, botfly, that's what I thought the name was for the ones that burrow under your skin, but I think that's just a common misconception. They're not the same.
Yeah, they're not quite the same. Botfly is more of a common name, and there's all kinds of cases where they interchange, so they're not that. Botfly and warblefly have often been used interchangeably in other species, especially with cattle and things like that. So,
and then I've also been
correct.
told too that it's a delicacy for local hunters is the warble larva. When they skin out the caribou, they like to chow down on those larvae. But,
well, I'll let them have those ones.
I
think I'll pass.
Not for me. So it must be having an effect on the larger herds then too, right? It wouldn't just be unless I guess, because the Nunavut, they're migrating further north, so maybe they're escaping a little bit of the problem because the growing season's probably a little shorter up there.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure it's a problem in the northern herds as well. The Arctic is one of the places that has seen the highest amounts of climate change. We're looking at least a couple degrees that we've already seen kind of hike through here. So I definitely would expect that the northern herds in Nunavut and the Northwest Territories have felt the same effects and are having the same problems with the increase in the populations of the flies.
Because they believe too that another thing is wolves. That's always been an issue, isn't it? They think that the wolves are damaging the population. Yeah,
so wolves are the number one predator for caribou, and typically wolves will hunt. Basically, they'll look for a weak member of the caribou or caribou that aren't paying attention, and that's when they'll do their hunting. Definitely, if we're having an increase in wolf population, it's something to consider. It's kind of a tricky situation to really tell.
Subject,
well, yes, and it's hard to tell if that's really what's going on, that it is the wolves kind of over hunting them.
I think that's a problem in northern Alberta as well.
Yeah.
They've been culling wolves for years.
Yeah, northern Alberta and in BC, they've been doing wolf culls, and unfortunately, it's had no effect on the caribou.
People are now questioning it and thinking that maybe it's not the issue.
Yeah.
I know another problem is bears. Like black bears are also bad for the populations just because they get the calves. That's mostly what they're after. But
yeah, calves or any kind of injured member, anything that's easy prey, because healthy full-grown caribou should have pretty much no problem getting away from a bear. But especially if it's during the summertime or when they're still having their antlers, they're pretty good defense. For the females, the caribou are interesting because females actually have antlers, which is pretty rare in the ungulates. But part of that reason is that she can protect her calves from things like wolves and bears.
And they don't shed them, right?
So the females will.
Okay.
They'll all shed them. So the males will shed them after mating season in November, because that's their kind of the reason why they have it is a big show for the ladies.
Yeah.
And then the females will actually keep them throughout the winter,
Yeah,
and then
'cause
shed. Yeah, and
that's
then
why I thought maybe they didn't shed them, was they
Yeah.
had them all winter long, basically.
yeah, and then they'll shed them in the springtime. But basically, what that lets them do is it lets them shed them right before they're going to be getting a bunch of really good food from the summer and the spring growth of plants. So
They're the only one in the deer family that grows antlers, the females, right?
yeah, they are. Yeah.
And they're a lot smaller too. They're not. It's not like they have the big monster
No.
like the males do or anything. When you see them out in the herds through the winter, yeah, they're quite. Because we were there right when, I guess when it gets really cold, you get a big cold snap. That's when the males start to shed. That's
Yeah.
cold is what helps to trigger it.
Yeah, basically. Well, they use them for mating season, so it's kind of as soon as they're done mating, and that's basically when the weather will turn. I'm sure that weather is one aspect. A lot of animals actually use daylight and day length as kind of their indicator because it's a very steady sort of time measurement. Whereas cold, I mean, you could have a cold snap in September, and the males wouldn't want to be losing their horns before they're trying to fight for the ladies. So, a lot of animals use day length just because it's very, very standard.
Yeah, we found a lot on the trails this winter.
Yeah,
we were at the kind of tail end where the males were finishing up shedding or whatever. So you'd be on the trail the night before, and then come back in the morning, and there'd be fresh sheds on the trail. It's pretty cool. And it's nuts how fast the fox and stuff move in.
Oh yeah.
Like within a day, those antlers are getting chewed on. Looks like a big dog bone.
No, they're really, really good sources of minerals, especially calcium. So those scavenging animals are very quick to move in. It's one of the best sources that they'll get all year of minerals. So very important to basically the biodiversity of these areas.
They like them when they're fresh, it seems like, because there's old ones everywhere.
Yeah,
but, right when they drop, they attack.
Yeah.
So we got a few whales around now. We got some on our starboard and one up on the port side. A couple in the area. To be mostly juveniles. It's hard to tell with the sun at this angle when they're following you or not. The water's looking good though. It looks nice and clear, so we'll see here with photos. I'll mention too, for any new listeners out there today, we have a citizen science project called Beluga Whale. Have you heard of it at all, or?
Yeah, I have actually. We've definitely been talking about it around the Parks Canada office.
Cool. Yeah, or you might have. Did you see the talk with Stefan Peterson?
No, I actually missed that talk. I was out at on site that day, but I talked to some of the leadership camp kids that I think we're doing some of the work with that.
With Heather and
With Heather and Maddie. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So yeah, it's Stefan Peterson is one of the co-founders, and he works at the Assiniboine Conservancy. And basically, with the underwater cam, mostly, I mean, you get some good shots sometimes with the above deck cam as well, but people at home are able to take snapshots as they see the whales under the water, and we're looking for identification marks, scarring, marks on dorsal ridges, things like that, and also belly shots to help determine sex.
Yeah.
And you got one right behind you there, just went under the boat. And then, they use it all for their research, and they get a lot of photos. Like yesterday, we probably got a couple hundred, I bet. Yesterday was crazy for pictures. So definitely appreciate everybody helping out. There's one now. Water does look nice and clear. I don't know if you can see that from there. It's kind of tough with the glare, but
looks like we got one following behind us.
No, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, seen flash, seeing just a little group up here straight ahead of us now. I'm trying to look over to Cockles Point and see. Usually we have good luck over there, but not seeing too much happening. Oh, there it is. Now we got the photos coming in. Yeah, they're all showing up really nice.
Great.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, the water's been so murky. We had a little bit of time where it cleared up and it was wicked. It's mostly when the tide's coming in, then we get some nice clear water from the bay.
Yeah.
And then when the tide heads back out, it seems to dirty up again a little bit, but it's nice to have the clear water again. We got it all. It was terrible again for a while. You could hardly see anything, and now it seems to be back.
Well, that's good. No, I've heard it's kind of been a rough year for the water with all our flooding here. It's really made the water quite silty and hard to see.
I think as the river goes down later in the summer too, it starts to, it'll be getting better, and hopefully just washing all that debris away also will make a difference. Seems to be getting better, so that's good. Looking at photos from past years, it's crazy how clear the water does get here.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I was talking to Remy at Sea North, and he was saying there's times where you're driving around and you could just see bottom anywhere in the estuary, which is it's crazy. If I see bottom in the boat now, I get really nervous because that means that we're in some shallow water.
Yeah, and the river does get quite shallow in some places. It's surprising, especially at low tide.
Oh yeah, it's like it's nuts when you see like low tide. Yeah, it doesn't even look like there's a river here anymore.
Yeah.
It looks like just a pool of water in here, and that's it. We were talking about Ithaca and how nuts it is that you could, because I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, or look at that.
Yeah, I've actually managed to do a walk right out to it at low tide.
It's a ways out there. Like it's crazy that you can walk all the way out.
Yeah, we've got a very unique tide because it is so flat here that it really heads very far out into the bay. And
yeah, 12 feet. Like they're around 4 meters. Obviously that fluctuates, but that's a lot of water. And for how gradual it is heading out. Exposes a lot of land. Got one right in front of us. Kind of point towards it. Not making a lot of noise today though. Pretty quiet. Yesterday they were really vocal.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's cool. But we still got one underneath us. It's cool having Heather on yesterday because it just so happened August 8th, it was the anniversary for the... Yeah, I didn't even realize it until she brought it up, the day that the fort fell.
Yeah.
In what, 1797, is that what it is?
1782.
1782. Getting too many dates in my head.
I know, I've had to memorize quite a few for this job.
Yeah.
But,
we had trivia, that was some of the questions at trivia night the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
oh, the water is looking very nice today.
yeah, we got 2 or 3 hanging out with us now. One's checking out the prop.
Oh, here comes a juvenile.
perfect that it's this calm too.
Yeah, it really is.
It's tough. You try to watch the weather, and I mean, I find there's no real point in checking it barely even the day before, because I just updated it before we came out on the water, like an hour and a half before, and they're calling for high winds. And as you can see, it's not the case. Oh, we got one right at the underwater cam now. Oh, little calf there.
Oh.
Just popped up. There we go. And there's a few more on the way there and behind us. Have you got to see any bears yet?
I have. We've seen a couple out at the fort. So that's been very, very cool.
Out
Getting
towards Eskimo Point, or?
Yeah, out at Eskimo Point, and one of the days, I guess, another male bear pushed too closer to the fort, so we had to get our
Really?
Parks Canada bear monitors were in action, trying to keep the tour guests safe while we were inside the fort. But it was very, very cool to see. They were.
Do you guys
quite
have
amazing.
a good view of Eskimo Point from up on the fort?
Yeah,
Or,
we've got a really nice view of it.
It seems like it's a ways away, but I guess it's not too far, eh?
It's not bad.
And when you're elevated like that?
Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot of trees in our way.
That's like, yeah, that's seems to be where they've been hanging out the most.
Yeah,
is Eskimo Point.
they really like those coastal regions. Anything that kind of juts out into the water that keeps them in the cool wind.
Away from the bugs.
Yeah,
I heard
exactly.
they were swatting away at the bugs the other day when we were getting those clouds of those fish flies and sand flies. That'd be rough on them. Yeah, we've seen there's more and more showing up now. Seems like they said the ice pack is on its way back down, so we'll probably be getting a bunch coming soon, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's apparently been a quiet year so far in Churchill, so
Yeah,
that's a
usually
good
there's
thing.
More, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm sure everybody's happy about it.
I know the bears that I've seen have been nice and fat, so that's always nice to see.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
Seems like they had a good year hunting on the ice.
Yeah, they said this year there was more ice. It was thin, but there was more of it, so it's allowing them to spend more time out there, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you know it, there'll be a whole pile of them here. It's coming, that time of year is coming fast.
I know, just living in town, my first time actually living in Churchill, and it's a little bit odd to go from living down south in the prairies, and then all of a sudden up here, you're like, yeah, I should walk to work with like other people because I don't want to run into a bear
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something you usually have to think about. Doesn't take long to get in the habit though. When you're worried about a bear attacking you, then it tends to be on your mind anytime you leave the house.
Yeah, and as soon as you see that first bear of the season, you're like, yeah, these things, I don't want to mess with them.
Oh, they're big. We seen mom and a couple cubs, and even the cubs, like I think they would have been probably 2-year-old cubs or something. But they're huge.
Yeah. It's wild. You don't expect them to get that big.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I noticed that too because I'm from Brooks, Alberta. So
okay.
The prairies too, southern Alberta. And because the weather here is just so different, right? Like
Oh yeah.
the hot days that we were getting, it's not always like that,
No.
or that consistent, I guess, where you get that much in a short amount of time. But it feels like kind of like you miss summer.
Yeah.
Like not that I miss it, but it didn't happen or something.
Yeah.
Like it stayed fall or something for when summer was supposed to be happening. Because yeah, usually you're dealing with, well, especially now, everywhere it's just crazy hot down south. It seems like all over the place. Back at home, and then they said in Winnipeg it's super hot there too. And I have a friend in BC in Squamish area, and it's been in the 30s there, which is really out of the ordinary, I think, for it to be that hot and that hot for so long.
Yeah, no, my family's back in Saskatoon, and it's been super hot there. They said it's been like 30 plus almost every day, which is definitely not what we're used to. We get quite a few hot days in the summer, but certainly not 30 above every day. So
it's crazy. If you're near the lake, then it's not bad. But if you're working in it, that's a different story. Trying to see if there's any obvious spots that we should head to, but not too busy out here yet. The whales haven't woken up. We got a video someone posted of the caribou on the Cape Cam. I guess I've heard they've had the herds going by the Cape Cams. They have the Cape North and Cape South camera on explore.org.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and they're online whenever we're off the water. So it's worth checking out because people just like that, they update you kind of what's happening on the Cape Cams. And they've had a few bears, some mom and cubs, and bears out swimming and stuff. So it's kind of cool to go check that out. If when you're home and we're off the water and you want to still check Churchill out, then it's a good place to go. And I think the Aurora Cam is always worth checking out, I think, if you're up at that time, depending on where you're viewing from. But they've had the other day was a real good night of Northern Lights.
Yeah, we were actually overnighting at the fort on Saturday night.
Oh, really?
And we were staying out there right on the historic site, and it was beautiful.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys just do that just for fun to go camp, or is there any reason for it?
So Parks Canada does offer it as sort of a service. If people want to inquire, they can do it. So we had one of our coworkers was taking her family out on the kind of the purchasable night at the fort, and she invited us students along, since we're all at the tail end of our summer out here. So
jump on the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. It was a really great experience.
And you guys were out that night when the Northern Lights were crazy?
Yeah, that was one of the nights. Saturday night it was pretty good, and Friday night looked even from here in town, it was just crazy how bright the sky was. So
yeah, I don't stay up that late. I wait until winter time, and then when the sun's going down at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
makes it pretty easy to catch the lights.
Yeah. It is crazy up here, the Northern Lights, though.
Yeah.
It's very weird to watch them. The ones here, they're so bright and they're active. It's not like it's just a green hue in the sky. They're fluttering all over the place.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, they really dance up here.
And I mean, even with town, it's a small town, and there's nothing else around, so you're not really concerned about light pollution. You can even get a really good show just staying in town and watching them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, we were watching from our deck of our house, and it was so bright we could catch it on our cameras without any special settings.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's cool. I was trying through the winter a few times, like if the sky was super clear, I wanted to get some exposure shots of the stars
Yeah.
and stuff, but every time I did it, the whole sky turns like green, just because there's always northern light activity, it seems like. So even if you can't see it, having your
Yeah.
camera set and sitting there for a long shot, it's yeah, you can't get a good shot of the stars, or at least I couldn't. It's hard to say what they're doing. Sometimes you can see kind of which, if they're all traveling, well, they all kind of are heading this way. So maybe Cockle's Point will be good in a little bit. Not seeing lots of whales there yet, but a few do seem to be moving that way. Oh, there's a little calf there. Wondering if we just go sit out at Cockles, if we'll. There's a few that popped up behind us now. There's a few more showing up in front of us. Seems like it's getting busier. You guys can probably spot them pretty good from the fort as well, eh?
Oh yeah,
calm
every
days.
day.
They stick out like a sore thumb, especially the adults, and on calm days.
Yeah, we got quite a few caribou out there as well that
Oh, really?
hang around, so
Yeah, Heather said she's seen them almost every day on her tour.
Yeah, on the Sloop Cove hike that heads between Sloop Cove and the fort, it's very rare that you wouldn't see a caribou, I think, so.
I gotta start watching for them. I've never spotted them on shore. Seems to be a lot of juveniles and stuff around. We've been having lots of adults. It seems like lately,
Yeah.
lots of big groups of adults, but this morning it seems like just mostly juveniles. You can tell just by the pigmentation, obviously, like the juvies before they turn white, they're that dark kind of slate gray color. And it's usually
It takes quite a few years for them to turn white.
It's 4 to 7 for
Yeah.
females to reach sexual maturity, and then 7 to 9 for males.
Okay.
Usually. And yeah, that's where they get their white color. We've been seeing lots of calves this year, and apparently it's, I think, more than what people usually see, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
there's
that
lots
is.
of them. I have nothing to compare it to. It's my first year out on the estuary, but right from the beginning, we've just been seeing lots of them.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Definitely a good sign.
Oh, there's a bird. There's this.
Yeah.
It's weird. They must just be really quiet right now. I mean, there's whales in the area here, somewhat close by, and you'd think that we were trying to figure that out, how far their sound would travel underwater.
Yeah.
Because sound, it's more efficient underwater. It'll travel at 1.6 kilometers a second.
Wow.
But I don't know how. That would obviously depend on how loud the sound was and stuff, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
There's one just surfaced right behind. Yeah, they're definitely in the area. It's just not chattering down there too much. Oh, we got a group right behind us now.
There we go.
Yeah, you can see already the water right around the corner. Just took a turn now. It's quite a bit more murky. Sometimes if we sit, the whales will come to us.
They're certainly around.
Yeah. Yeah, there's times where they'd just be a whole pile of them under the boat and you just never even know it. Yeah. We're seeing lots of bubbles all around the boat here, but no whales. Sure, maybe they could see him down in the underwater cam. Here's some faint squeaks and stuff there. They have on their head, their forehead, the melon, as it's called.
Yeah.
And that's what they use for their echolocation or sonar. It's filled with like a oily substance. They say it's actually kind of gushy, I guess, if you touch it. It's really soft and pliable. And they're able to change the shape of it when they want. And kind of, they're hanging close to shore. It starts to get shallow right off the point there. Yeah, they can hold their breath for up to 25 minutes, so you never know. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't need to necessarily in the estuary, but who knows? turning our way now. I think they're just hanging out. They're moving really slow today, and they seem to be taking their time. We got a group behind us of 4 or 5 whales. Yeah, they're not interested. That can change though. We've had lots of days that start off slow like this, and then all of a sudden it's like the mood just changes in the river and they get all excited, and then they'll follow you around for the rest of the trip. So what's been your favorite thing to do in Churchill since you've...
I just like walking around the area. Like, I love this landscape. It's so amazing. So getting to do that. Had the opportunity to go up in a helicopter and do some work in the park. So that was really great too.
That's got to be a nice view.
Yeah, the park is amazing. It's one of my favorite places in the world. So.
We were up in the tower at the CNSC, and it's nuts when you can see just how wide open and how much water and everything. The landscape is very interesting here.
Yeah, the first time I came up here was actually 2 years ago as part of a university course from the University of Saskatchewan.
Oh, really?
And we got to spend a week living in the park, and that was amazing.
Just in like wall tents and stuff?
We were in the Nestor 1 research site,
cool.
which is an older research site that was kind of grandfathered into the park that was used for banding snow geese, or Canada geese, and monitoring their nests and research on them. And it's basically been maintained since, and it's kind of one of the few places you can actually stay in the park. It's kind of one of the few bits of infrastructure there, so.
That's cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it was amazing.
We just had somebody ask about the belugas. Yeah, generally, so she's asking if they come to us or why they follow us, I guess. And yeah, it's all just depends on the mood out in the river. Like, we get days where there's just nothing, and you can't, I mean, there's no way to force them into following you or hanging out with you, right? And we're not going to chase them around the river. We don't want to stress them out or anything like that. So kind of all we do is putter around like this, and if we see some activity, we'll get somewhat close to it, and you'll see like all of a sudden they'll just flip a 180 and they'll come right at you, or it just all depends on what they want to do. So we have days they won't leave us alone even if we wanted them to, and other days where it's just quiet and you can kind of see them from a distance. And we've talked about it a few times, but Stefan, one of his papers was on the impact we're having on the whales in the estuary, and he compared it to I just drew a blank there. The St. Lawrence population.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they found here, as far as he could tell, there is no real indication that we're having a negative impact on the whales or their behavior being out on the water, like, the boats and the tourists.
Yeah.
And, in the St. Lawrence, however, then it's a lot more traffic. There's a lot bigger ships, so there's a lot more pollution as well as noise pollution, and it does seem to be having an effect on them there. But it's good to see that we're bunch of happy whales here. There's some other researchers that were in town, and they're taking like mucus samples or from when they're taking breaths or blowing out their blowholes, and one of the things they were looking for was the stress hormone cortisol.
Yeah.
And then that'll help. I want to find out the results just to see. That'd be sort of confirmation for between the two, if the animals were stressed in the estuary.
For sure, that's a very good indicator, a very important indicator in all kinds of biological studies. Is cortisol. It's used quite often. So. And
it's cool how they do it. They're taking. I think Heather was explaining it too yesterday. They take petri dishes and hold it over, right? So when the whales, because they come so close to the boat, and I find it's mostly the adults. They'll come right up surface and take a breath. So you just hold that petri dish in the air and catch a sample. So because I'd imagine, if you a response like a cortisol spike would be like instant, right? If you were to capture the animal and try to take a sample that way, then you just
Yeah,
have faulty information because obviously the animal would be stressed from handling. So
absolutely.
this way, they're just living their life, doing what they
Yeah.
want to do, and
That's definitely something that my studies are based on animal sciences, and that's definitely something that they talk about. Is cortisol is a great indicator of stress. It's used a lot in studies, but it's hard to basically take a sample that you're not at all stressing the animal out. Any kind of handling is always going to spike those cortisol levels. So that petri dish method is great. It's so uninvasive. The whales don't even notice. So,
yeah, they have no idea what's happening. What what other, like, you could take a blood sample to check for cortisol? Like, what other methods are you able to find out cortisol levels in an animal?
So in an animal, you can basically find it in any kind of a body fluid. You can even find it in urine or mucus samples from feces. Saliva is used, definitely blood.
So
and
there
then,
is methods, like if you're, like, you just have to be, say for caribou, you'd have to be falling around waiting for him to pee, and then you trying to get in there and get a sample afterwards. That'd be the only real way. Otherwise, you gotta handle the animal.
Otherwise you're handling the animal exactly.
Yes, that's gotta be tough. Oh, I thought they'd hang out if we stopped there, but no, they seem like, I don't know. I guess maybe I wouldn't be able to tell if they were stressed out but from just sitting on the boat for so many hours now and observing them, they seem to be pretty relaxed, and like, I just keep saying, I think this is like a summer vacation for them, right? Coming to the estuary, because they're coming to warmer waters. They're coming to molt, and there's plentiful food, and they're getting some protection from predators. And just everything about life in the estuary seems to be easier compared to when they head up north. So you'd almost have to, I guess, try to get samples when they're in their winter habitat, and then and then try to see the difference. But then that's super difficult. That's part of the reason we don't know a lot about the whales, is because it's so difficult to track them and
very much
and follow them when they migrate north.
Trying to sit at a breathing hole for hours, hoping they come up, and they might not even want to. So
yeah, and they don't even necessarily
they're
know
not even
exactly
there.
Where they are, yeah.
It's hard to tell under the ice. So certainly, any of the Arctic animals are difficult to study. They're probably the most studied in the area is the polar bear and the polar bears, and even then, there's lots and lots that we just don't know.
Mainly with just the males.
Like,
they have collared females and stuff, but it's tough with the males because they have like their necks are thicker than their heads. So the collars just slip right off, and I think they've found ear tags are helpful, or they work, but then the life isn't as long as it is with the collar. So it's really limited what they know about, especially the males with the polar bears.
Yeah.
It'd be nice though if you can have them, just for the safety of the people and of the town, or of the bears. I mean, if they're able to see, like, there's problematic bears, ones that are just troublemakers, and if they knew when they're heading to town, then they can intercept them. And
certainly, being proactive would, I'm sure, be a great help to conservation.
I mean, not to say that everyone here is doing an amazing job. There's no doubt about that, but
definitely with the way that technology is moving, we're getting closer to that, for sure.
Got a couple, looks like 2 calves maybe, I thought, just poked up there behind. Oh, maybe it's just 1.
Oh, no, there are 2. Oh. 3 now coming up behind our boat.